So we need to talk about this UnitedHealthcare CEO shooting. And there's a lot of things we need to discuss on this. We're going to cover why he was absolutely not a professional, speaking of the shooter. Let's talk about the gun, because there's a lot of inconsistencies going on with the reporting of what gun was used, why that's such a big deal, I'm not sure, but for some reason everybody wants to know. So let's talk about that. And let's talk about who exactly this dude is and why, because I guess the reason why is a question that people have for some reason. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I know that your trust in media should, if this doesn't kill it, I don't know what to tell you by now. The best case scenario is the people who are giving us the information are absolute idiots. The worst case scenario is that, I'm going to steal a phrase from Bear Independent, that we were mushroomed, which means we were kept in the dark and fed bullshit. So anyway, let's jump into it. I might put some still frames in this video to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm not going to put the video in it because I don't want my stuff taken down and it's out there. You're informed people. You've already seen it anyway. So I don't know. I may put in some stills. But let's address that this guy was not a pro. He was not a pro at all. What I think he was some people got mad at UnitedHealthcare, went down to your local dirtbag store, found one that they could pay a couple $1,000 or whatever, and he agreed to do it. I think the guy's probably shot a gun before. He may have shot at people before, but he was not a professional, and I'll give you a couple of clear reasons why I can say that. That might not be as obvious to, the common person who has, not had much training at all. But, it's one of those, if you know, you know. So after this, if you don't already, well, then you will know. One of the biggest giveaways in this whole thing was, I guess they're all pretty big giveaways, but you see this porpoising of the way he presented the firearm. And that's something that with any amount of training is absolutely scrubbed from your brain, where you just can't do it anymore. And what I mean by porpoising is, he came up with the gun, like a porpoise, like a dolphin swims, presenting it like this. Whereas with any type of training, everybody is taught the same thing. Raise up to center, keep your eyes, everything in line of eyesight, and press forward to the target. And that was absolutely not done. And none of the stuff that he did happened within the trained workspace, so to speak, with clearing the malfunctions and everything like that. So that was one. The second thing is the way he cleared the malfunctions. He cleared them like an amateur that hadn't done anything. He would fire, the gun would malfunction, and he would turn it over this way. Well, the ejection port faces up then. You're working entirely against gravity. That's something that is absolutely scrubbed from your mental being with any type of training. Like maybe if he left it straight up, but most generally you turn it toward the ejection port, which is almost always on the right. And if you want to tell me that, it was he did that and it was probably an ejection port that was on the other side of a left-handed gun, well, why was he shooting it right-handed? And why would a professional shoot a left-handed gun right-handed? So that kind of bunks that. But anyway, you're trained, if there's a malfunction, turn the butt towards your hand so you can, give a good solid tap to the magazine, and then reach over, rack the slide, and let the slide go forward, slam forward under its own spring tension, the way the gun is supposed to operate. And there were a couple times, I know of at least once, I'll have to look again, where he rode that slide forward, caused another malfunction. And you could even see after he did that, he actually took and slapped the butt of the gun to get it to seat into battery. which an out of battery gun's not going to fire. And then we look at the actual shooting itself. If you look close, the first round landed in the leg, like not the chest, not the head. It hit him in the leg. And whether that was a bad aim issue, I tend to think it was a crappy silencer issue, which we'll address in just a moment. But a trained professional wouldn't use a gun or equipment that would cause, I mean, you could tell by looking at him, the gun wasn't pointed at his leg, but it hit, you know, at that short of a distance with 3 feet off target. So we can move on from that. We understand that this guy wasn't a professional, although he may have fired guns before. So let's talk about the gun itself. This is one of the places where the media is absolutely clueless, and so are these law enforcement officials. Like, I hope it's that they're clueless and they're not just mushrooming us, but let's go with the clueless for the purpose of this video. They don't know what they're talking about. We've heard it was the Station 6 gun from Europe. We've heard that it was a 3D printed gun. Yes, there's mainstream media places been reporting this as a 3D printed gun. I've heard a lot of stuff today about how it was a veterinary gun for euthanizing cattle and stuff like that. And none of those things line up. First of all, I guess you could kind of get the 3D printed gun, which I just don't see this amateur doing. Even if you have the files to be able to 3D print, you know, like a Glock, which it's just the receiver. It takes a lot of knowledge to be able to get those. They don't just run, right? And you could blame some of that on the, you know, the reliability issues that it had, but we'll discuss that here in a minute. I just don't see it being a 3D printed firearm. This B&T Station 6 is one of these European World War II era guns that had a wipe style suppressor. And from the absolute potato vision video footage that we have, it could look somewhat like that. However, that gun is exceedingly rare, and I just don't see it being there. Like, chances are before this whole thing came out, almost nobody had ever even heard of it. So being something that's exceedingly rare like that is, I just don't see it. As well as that is a bolt action gun, and we could see the slide reciprocating and gas coming out of the ejection port, you know, and the muzzle, gas coming out both ends. So the slide was reciprocating, so it wasn't a bolt action. And with it being the wipe style suppressor, they're saying it was a 9mm, a really high portion. Those are a lot more efficient than the current machined suppressors. They wear out soon. You know, you literally have to shoot the bullet through these rubbery, they call them wipes. They're like a rubber washer without a hole in them, so to speak. And the vet gun, the veterinary gun, why? I mean, why would, just tell me why anybody would choose that, regardless of how amateur they were. And once again, we go back to the bolt action gun. And here's another thing. With those, the bolts almost always turn to the left. And if we'll notice, he was, you know, the bolt always turns this way. Well, he was rotating the gun that way, the wrong way, which would have bound up, he wouldn't have been able to actuate the bolt. So none of that makes sense when you get to looking at it from a, you know, a logical perspective. And so I don't know. What kind of gun was it? None of us knows. You know, go ask the owl. I'm not sure. I don't have any idea. I do think it was probably a compact, like a Glock 19 size gun, but I don't have any idea what kind of gun it was, and I don't think it matters. the only reason I bring it up is because we're basically having idiots tell us something that they think is correct, or we're being mushroomed by the information that they're giving us. I do know that the silencer, was absolute junk. We've already discussed how there was probably a pretty severe baffle strike where the bore of the suppressor isn't concentric with the bore of the gun. And as the bullet travels through, it hits one of the baffles, which would not have, if it was one of those wipe suppressors, like the Station 6 and the veterinary gun and all of that. It would have been a rubbery suppressor, and it wouldn't have affected the bullet that much. So I think this was probably some kind of a, home improvement store, Lowe's, Home Depot special that was made illegally, or some Temu shop, one that, was advertised as something different, and this dude didn't know what he was doing. But there was a baffle strike in there that caused the first round to land like 3 feet away from where it was. So this wasn't a quality suppressor by any means. And I think it was probably some shop, garage made junk, out of plumbing pipe or something. I don't know. I don't have any proof in that. It's just when I look at the facts that we can observe, that's the conclusion I've come to on that. So who was this guy? I don't have any idea who this guy was. And why did he do it? We'll address that here in a minute. Why do you think he did it? That's a stupid question. So as of today, they have a person of interest in Pennsylvania who evidently was at a McDonald's or something like that, and somebody called him in, said this dude looks like the guy y'all are looking for. So they got to him, they found a fake ID that somewhat matched the ID that he checked into a hotel with. They evidently, although they're not telling us how they found it, they're telling us that they found a pistol and a suppressor and some other things that could be linked back to the crime. But they're not telling us, was it a search warrant? Did he have it on his person? They're mushrooming us on that, and I don't really understand why. What I will say is, while I'm not I'm sorry, I had to restart the video. I started to get really frustrated in this part, and I let some language fly that I probably shouldn't have. So let's try this again. One thing I will say about this is everything seems to be happening really, really perfect. Like, what idiot in the world is going to leave his phone behind, is going to, have this water bottle with his DNA on it close by, is going to write inscriptions on the ammunition and leave it there, and then travel from New York to Pennsylvania while still keeping a bunch of fake IDs and a passport and all this stuff that, mind you, was the same ones used at the hotel, and then still have all of this weapon and suppressor and all of these things. It's possible, it's plausible that all of this stuff could be true, but it just seems a little bit too perfect. And here's the thing, this was a high-profile crime that got the entire world's attention. So somebody's going to go to jail for it, whether it's the guy that did it or not. That's my opinion on it. And I'm not saying that I think that we're being mushroomed on that. It very well may be. I don't know. I haven't researched into it long enough to be able to form a knowledgeable opinion about it, but I do think that we need to question and confirm everything. So I'm not doubting it, but I am questioning it. There's another conspiracy going around, and I don't know if it holds any weight to it, that this CEO is supposed to testify either for or against Nancy Pelosi. I don't know if there's any truth to that. It's just something that I came across a couple times. I don't know. Maybe that is the case. I don't have an opinion on it because I don't know enough to form an opinion on that. But, do your own research into that and, let me know what you think. But I think we can pretty well rule out the fact that he was a professional. He wasn't. You know, this guy was an idiot. The gun, I have no idea what kind of gun it was. I think it was probably a compact. I know it was semi-auto because of the way we could observe it behaving. But I also know it wasn't anything that any of these media outlets have told us. And the reason I bring that up is just to reinforce the fact that we need to question everything that we're told in the media. If the media tells us the sky is blue, yes, that's truth, but I'm still going to look and check, right? Something that small, we've been lied to enough, or at best case scenario, just been given wrong information. Right now, they're just putting information out and hoping it's true. That's the best case scenario. And that's honestly what I hope the scenario is. But you need to question all of this stuff. And it'll probably be a few weeks before we get any real, information out of any of this. So anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. Y'all be sure and like, share, subscribe, comment, and show me some love on this video. Until next time, y'all be safe.